Hey everyone, welcome to Be Well and Thrive podcast. It's me, your host, Dr. Bill Renkus with Movement First Physical Therapy. I am joined today by Brit Guerin. She is the co-founder and co-owner of Current Wellness, which is a wellness center in downtown Raleigh that is for physical and mental health. Their mission statement is activating wellness for mind, body, and community. Brit is a licensed mental health counselor, co-founder and owner, as I said. She has a bachelor's and master's in kinesiology, as well as a master's in clinical mental health. She is she does movement coaching, wellness coaching, as well as mental health counseling. So today what we're going to be talking about is a little bit of background as to how she got started and all the things that she loves to do to help people live their best life, as well as some of the things that she dreams of doing going forward with Current Wellness and their big dreams, as we've talked before. So I can't wait for you guys all to hear about it. So Brit, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And I'd love for you to just start with just telling everybody about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are and you know why you chose this path.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, Bill. Yeah, that was a great intro, just kind of snapshot of what I do professionally. I've been working in the fitness field a lot longer than the mental health field. So I've been working in fitness for over 12 years. And I mean, I feel like I kind of have a typical story. I was an athlete in high school and college and just really wanted to take that with me in my career. I was a typical undergraduate student who had no idea what I wanted to do, and I knew that I loved movement and physical activity, and so that kind of got me down the path of studying kinesiology and teaching group fitness. Um, and yeah, from there, mental health has always been really important to me. I've got family members who struggle with mental illness. I have anxiety myself. And so as I was kind of going down my fitness career, I kept coming back to mental health. And about 3 years ago, decided, you know what, I'm just going to go back to school and kind of have a dual career in fitness and mental health, because really the two like integrate so well together. And so, yeah, it's a little bit about how I got to where I am today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Would you be so kind to tell everyone a little bit about your dream and a little bit of your goals for Current Wellness?
Yeah. So really that kind of started Current Wellness was this integration of mental health and movement. I finished my degree in clinical mental health last year, and I knew I wanted to go into private practice. And so I was searching for space in kind of downtown Southeast Raleigh, and my partner and I found a space that was like perfect just for me. And I was going to have an office and then a small movement studio. And then I might have mentioned this to you before, Bill, but that lease fell through, and
Oh,
we found a building 3 times the size. Which was like even better. So it was really like meant to be. And from there, my partner and I, Nathan, we just really got to dreaming about integrating a lot of different wellness services, so that, you know, you can't really attack wellness from one angle. There's so much to it, from how the body moves, you know all about physical therapy and the alignment of the body, and nutrition, what you're putting in your body, and mental health and community, and bringing people together. So we're excited about the integration of different providers really collaborating in that way. And we're a co-working model. So providers can essentially rent space in our building and see clients either one-on-one or a group format out of the space. And so with that, yeah, we're just excited about getting creative in ways to make wellness more accessible and from a broader standpoint.
That's awesome. I definitely want to come back to accessibility
Yeah.
down the line. I saw some cool stuff when I was researching your business.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to learn about is how you want to tie together mental and physical health, because in talking to you, it seems like that's kind of where the dream kind of started coming together, where you said,
Hmm.
I think that it fits together so well. And tell me how you feel like it's so important to have physical health along with the people who are seeking mental health, and then vice versa, people who are seeking mental health. Why is it important to have physical health?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I feel like I could answer those questions in so many different ways because there's so much to it. But in the sake of time, one thing that we really try to do in our movement classes is so folks who come to us for fitness, for movement, we start all of our classes with grounding. And so that just means basically like laying on the ground, feeling your body connected to the floor, being mindful about how your body feels, and really letting the nervous system down cycle. So you're really activating that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest side of the nervous system. And you might think like, well, why are we resting in the beginning of a movement class? Well, through that, it really, when you think about like our day to day, I don't know about you, but like it's very chaotic. I'm juggling so many different things, so many different like relationships, roles, conversations, emails. I mean, I'm bouncing in so many different directions. And so um, we don't often have an opportunity to just find stillness and pause. And what that does, it really sets ourselves up for better success in a movement class because then our nervous system is better able to respond to movement in a healthy way. So if we don't have that in the beginning of class, exercise is stress to the body. Essentially, our cortisol levels go up, and if we're not being careful, that can be like a maladaptive coping strategy. Something that ends up we have good intentions around exercise, but it ends up not being the best because we're not going about it in the best way. And then we finish all the classes that way too. So grounding, kind of resetting, finding appreciation for our body, and all that good stuff. So that's kind of pulling in the stress management and the mental health side into the movement classes, and then vice versa. I'm never going to shame someone who is sedentary and say like, well, you really need to be thinking about exercise. But I might ask them like, what are you doing to move your body? Like, it doesn't have to be quote unquote exercise. Like, it could be walking your dog, or playing a sport in the field, or rolling around on the floor with your kid,
Mm-hmm.
because movement at the end of the day is so good for our mental health and getting that mind body connection, and really getting out of our head and into our body. So that's some of the kind of um, transfer among the two, or between the two.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really like how you talk about grounding and how you want to bring people, calm people down, because like you said, not often do people think about it, but yeah, if you're stressed out all day, if you're, who knows what you're eating throughout the day too, but your nervous system could be heightened, it could be inflamed, and then to add more physical stress to that, it's only potentially going to do worse harm. So
Yeah,
to kind of reset things is super important, and I don't think many people do that, unfortunately. So kudos, and that's awesome to hear. um
yeah, thanks.
yeah, and totally can relate to what you're saying about just moving in any sort of way, whether it's just going out for a walk and resetting. That's
Hmm.
definitely something that I commonly tell my patients too, is like, hey, you know, we've done a bunch of stuff here. Just go for a walk, let it set in, get some motion, let your body feel it. So I can
Hmm.
totally appreciate that. It also kind of helps, yeah, ease the mind. reset. It's great.
Yeah.
Um, Now, in doing some research on yourself and the business, you talk a lot about reclaiming fitness, and a couple things that kind of popped out is kind of the no pain, no gain, and dysfunctional exercise. I'd love for you to kind of dive into some of that stuff and some of your thoughts on that type of exercise, or how you like to alter that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can all kind of see, maybe see it more clearly because this is my specialty, but we can all kind of like see that maybe more older way of a fitness studio or a gym pushing that no pain no gain. Like I feel like that's pretty outmoded at this point. Like you don't see it that often, but that still was such a strong message. Yeah, I mean it
Yeah,
depends.
you see it. I see it a lot. I hear it. I hear it on a regular basis. On, people are like, no pain, no gain. I say, whoa, like, hey, slow your roll.
Ooh,
But
yeah,
yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, it is still out there. I think it's becoming less, but yeah, it's still out there. Um, and I mean, when I peel back the onion on that, like, I mean, one, you're a physical therapist, like that is a terrible idea, right? Like we shouldn't push to the point we're in pain, physical pain.
Right, right.
Two, that's intimidating for a lot of people. And three, think about a different activity, like I don't know, anything that is like another hobby you might have. If that hobby literally like hurt and was uncomfortable, would you continue to do it?
Yeah,
Like,
probably not.
I certainly wouldn't. And
Right.
so I think that's why so often people like fall off, quote unquote, their fitness plans because it's not fun. Like when we push ourselves to that point, it's just not fun. And we might do it for a few weeks, few months if we are more of a like type A personality, but it's not going to stick because it's
Mm-hmm.
just at the end of the day it doesn't feel good. It's not great
Mm-hmm.
for our nervous system, and it doesn't have to be that way, and
Mm-hmm.
so we really want to encourage people to find movement that um, doesn't hurt. Workouts don't have to hurt to be effective,
Mm-hmm.
and take that one step further. Workouts that don't hurt are even more effective, right? Because we're moving mindfully. When we slow down and maybe take out the impact, all of the jumping, it's not only better for our joints, but we have increased muscle activation because we're moving mindfully. So we get a lot more out of it. So yeah, there's a lot of education behind it and like encouraging people to like unlearn some of that old mentality of no pain, no gain, so that they're serving themselves and that they can actually do something in a way that is sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd like to not challenge you a little bit. I totally hear what you're saying. I just want to hear your opinion on this.
Sure.
There's some people out there that feel like, when it comes to, I'm not saying this is right or wrong either. I'm just
Yeah.
saying there's some people out there that believe that, when it comes to physical fitness, sometimes your own mental ability kind of gets in your way, and it can limit your ability to do certain functional things, or whether it's, get through, a certain number of push-ups, or go for a certain length of a walk or a run. um,
Mhm.
you Our brains are so powerful in that it can create pain, kind of like you're saying. Like if you don't enjoy something, if you don't like a hobby, why would you do it? And so I
Mhm.
wonder what you think about the people who say you have to push through some of those mental barriers to try
Mhm.
to um, achieve some of these fitness goals that you may have. And I guess my question to you is what do you say to that? And also, how much of your mental wellness side of your business do you feel like is trying to tackle some of that so that you can help people through that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that there is a segment of the population that thrives with HIIT workouts and or
Mm,
CrossFit or whatever that is a higher intensity type of activity. And that's a smaller percent of the population. Like I feel like fitness and fitness studios and gyms kind of cater to that. And
mhm.
that's leaving out a lot of people.
I would agree. Yeah, you're right. You're
And
definitely right.
so, yeah. And so it's like, that's great for some people. And so I think what I'm trying to do is for the people who don't feel like they have anywhere to go, like, hey, try this. It's a different style of movement. And it's not that it's not challenging. Like
Hmm.
I would say I offer a lot of options in my
Hmm.
classes. And so if you are the type that you want to work out more intensely or you want to push yourself, like by all means, like I'm not going to tell you not to. If that's what you're
Hmm.
here for, like get after it. Um, but you're making a choice, and I feel like that choice is so important to feel a sense of empowerment. And you might feel in a place of when we feel empowered, we feel more positive about ourselves. So we might make a choice to push ourselves, but not from a place of like guilt and shame,
Hmm.
from a place of like, oh, I can do this. Like I
Right.
can move faster. And I do that a lot in my classes. Like, can you go faster? What would it be like to pick up the pace? And some people
Right.
are like, nah. And some people are like killing it.
Yeah.
And so when I used to teach at Flywheel, I mean, I would still teach there if it was open, but people would comment like, my classes are sneaky hard. It's because I'm like, I'm not yelling at people and saying like, go, 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 like if, yelling and this boot camp type of mentality, but like I'm encouraging and saying like, can you pick up the pace? And if you do have more of that drive, like you're gonna kill it, like you're gonna go
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. I really like that strategy. My follow-up question was going to be kind of like, what do you say to people that are getting through half of your workout and saying, I'm feeling like I'm struggling. I don't know if I can make it to the end, but it sounds like you just you just support them and you encourage and say, hey, give what you can. What can you do? And
mhm.
keep going if you can, or, like, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like our yoga teachers literally say like, if you did nothing but stayed in child's pose for 60 minutes, like you did yoga. Um, and
That's my kind of yoga.
yeah, exactly. Um, but I feel like if you give people choice, like we have to trust that they'll make the best choice for themselves
Hmm.
with enough education and enough encouragement. So yeah, and I think that yeah, I just feel strongly about like intuitive movement.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Awesome. Tell me a little bit more about your coaching and counseling, versus the group classes and all that. How do you do that all?
How do we do
So
that?
let's start with let's start with mental health counseling. So what types of
Yeah.
things do you focus on? Um, what types of people are you trying to help?
Yeah. So usually therapists have specialties. That doesn't mean that we don't work with like outside of them because we're kind of trained broadly in most things, but then you kind of dial in and have a niche. And so I specialize in anxiety, trauma, disordered eating, and disordered exercise. So those are kind of the things that I focus on. Um, and so what that means is if someone um, is kind of fixated on being unhappy about their body, like body image struggles, or fixating about food. Like they might be dieting and restricting, which we know by research, if we often diet and restrict, that means we're going to be hyper focused and hyper obsessed about food because we're likely not giving ourselves enough nourishment. It's like a survival mentality, and we'll typically overcompensate and binge or overeat. So folks who are just struggling with their relationship with food, I work with them. And then that exercise component, like I was mentioning earlier, exercise is great. And sometimes it becomes a person's only coping strategy. And so we basically build a tolerance to it. So if you felt like really good and had endorphins, for a 30-minute run, and that's the only way that you're managing your stress, after a certain time, you're going to need to do 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it keeps going. And it just gets in the way of your living your life.
Right.
So yeah, those are the things that I see most of my clients in those areas.
Yeah. Wow. You commonly think of people binging on food, drugs, not necessarily exercise, but it's definitely a source of relaxation or therapy for so many people. And in my practice, that's one of the things that people struggle with the most, is they can't get that therapy. And they find themselves more irritable. They struggle focusing at work. They struggle, being present at home because they're uncomfortable. And that's kind of what's taking over their mind. So, so it's definitely there. You just don't always think that it's that extreme. So that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that's definitely something I'll think of, in the future, if I'm working with someone and they're having a real hard time because they can't get to their exercise, and I'll say, this is something that we might need to talk to someone about, that we need to get some other ways to express yourself and find relief.
Yeah,
so that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I also saw on your blog about orthorexia, about, tell me a little bit more about that. I don't want to butcher it.
Yeah, no, you said it right, orthorexia. So it's currently, it's a newer, it's not even a diagnosis, it's a newer concept. It's not yet in the DSM, but it likely will be in the next round of the criterion. But yeah, kind of like we were just talking about with over-exercise, it's an obsession with healthy food and eating clean or raw or organic or whatever that is, in a way that interferes with your life. So that might look like, well, I can't go on vacation because I can't pack all of my food with me. Or like, I can't go out to eat because there's nothing for me to eat at that restaurant. So then that gets in the way of your social wellness. Like, you really can't, go out and enjoy time with friends and family. And those are just some examples. But, and again, it's very, in my work, it's so fascinating to me because clean eating and exercise, or healthy eating even, those are socially acceptable behaviors, right? And inherently they're not bad. They're good. They're good things. We should be doing those things. And when it becomes an obsession, it's like, we need, like you said, we need to take a look at this. It's just, if it is impacting your quality of life, then something's got to give.
Right. Yeah. Too much of anything commonly ends up being a bad thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about wellness, and then movement coaching that you do.
Yeah. I would say it's kind of similar. Folks, there's so much overlap between wellness coaching and therapy. Folks who really want to, they might come to me for wellness coaching because they want to be more well, or they want to have specific goals around movement, or really just feeling better in general. And we might work on those things and set some goals around sleep or hydration or movement or what have you. And then because I'm a therapist, it's like, wow, we're talking about what happened to you when you were 5, and we're talking about your marriage. And like, again, like wellness doesn't exist in a vacuum. And
Right.
so I really think, like, for me, in my experience, wellness coaching is a really good like segue into, like, a gateway into
Right.
therapy,
Yeah.
because there's so much stigma around
Right.
therapy. And
Yeah.
really, like, there doesn't have to be something, quote, wrong with you to see a therapist. Like,
Right.
I see a therapist. I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with me, but I have struggles. Like, I have challenges, and we can always, if nothing else, like, there's so much to learn about ourselves and the way that we interact with people, and like the beliefs we have about ourselves. And so even if it's just for like personal growth and development, um, obviously I'm big on therapy too. Like, I think everyone should do it. It's like brushing your teeth. Like, we all
Right.
should talk to somebody.
Right. Like a dentist checkup, you should have at
Yeah.
least a couple times a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Tune up.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's something I've asked in the past, and something I'm always interested in is that stigma of mental health. And why, just curious, why would you think that exists? And why do you think it kind of holds people back?
hmm Well, I think, like, there's a lot of history in that. So historically, like, if something was wrong with you, or you had some sort of um, personality disorder, or even like disability, like, I mean, they were really like shunned and like
Mm-hmm.
hidden in the house. And so I think it's something that is, mental health is not a very old field. So it's kind of a newer thing that people are still learning about. And then when you
Mm-hmm.
think about, like, culturally, like, certain communities are more open to it. um, Certain communities, like the Black community, not always but often, like, they might say, well, like, church is therapy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's just like a cultural norm that
Yeah.
I feel like is kind of getting challenged, right? Like, yes,
Right.
go to church if that's for you, have your faith, and you can also have a therapist if you need
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah. That's really interesting. Um, what about tell me last about your movement coaching, and kind of how you use movement, or try to help people with movement.
yeah. So I mean, for it depends on goals. If someone really just wants like accountability and wants to like work on their form, it looks more like a typical personal training session. But because of kind of my specialty, I get a lot of people who are recovering from an eating disorder and are trying to reintegrate movement back
Mm,
into their life without getting triggered with some of those like eating disorder thoughts of like, movement is for weight loss.
mm.
Like, movement doesn't have to be for weight loss. Movement is great for so
Right.
many other things.
Right.
So kind of like reframing movement in a life-giving way instead of like a shrinking mentality. So
Right.
yeah.
Very nice. I like that. So I mentioned, actually, one more thing before I get to the inclusivity and access. What what person should be coming to you? So what type of, I think I asked this. I'm not sure if I fully got the answer, or else I probably wouldn't have thought of it again. But what people do you think are perfect for current wellness, and coming to seek enhancement, help, whatever they may be looking for?
hmm Yeah. So I think, we've got some niche audiences, and then we've got like more of a general population. So I think, definitely we are great for people who have like just struggle with body image and disordered eating and disordered exercise, because we can help foster those more those healthier thoughts. Also, I think because of our approach to movement and being very mindful and very focused on form and alignment and not necessarily like speed and competition, we're great for folks who have had injuries or are working through an injury or have mobility limitations.
Music to my ears.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely great for folks who are like working on just like maintenance and trying
Mm-hmm.
to prevent injury. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of our workouts. I think they're great for everyone. We have classes that are like functional based. We've got strength training. We have dance that's just fun, and then yoga. So. Yeah. And then really people who are looking for like specific services,
Mm-hmm.
dietitian or massage or anything like that.
Awesome. Neat. So yeah, that brings me to inclusivity as well as access. And I
Yeah.
found it awesome that you have a donation based care plan. So I think it said something about, people can donate to raise money to allow people who can't necessarily afford care, as well as they can buy gift cards that would cover care. Tell me a little bit about that and kind of where you decided to include that, and how you really try and help that grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am, our mission is activating inclusive wellness. And a lot of times, wellness spaces, and I think there's a lot of history to this, oftentimes are like very white spaces. They're not very diverse. Oftentimes, the folks that are in there are higher SES, right? Like wellness can be expensive. And so we want to make wellness, we want to make our wellness center a diverse space of different people, all different backgrounds, different financial situations. And specifically, our building is located in Southeast Raleigh, which is a historically Black neighborhood. And they have, of Wake County, they have one of the lower socioeconomic statuses. And so, and it's an area that's being dramatically gentrified. And we basically don't want to come in and say, hey, we're in your neighborhood. Sorry if you can't afford us, right? Like we want to
Right.
say, hey, we're in your neighborhood and we exist for you, our neighbors. And so, and that's kind of where the pay it forward model came from. And so folks can donate a one-time donation, or they can donate a monthly donation. So say, a membership right now, our online membership is $60. If you want to pay $70 a month and 10 of that goes to support someone who can't afford our services, like that's awesome. And so yeah, it's been going really well. I've been able to provide a ton of sliding scale mental health counseling sessions. We've been giving out free fitness classes. So it's been really neat to see just how it's been received, and people care on both ends of the giving and the receiving end.
That is amazing, and that's when I saw that, I was just like, oh, wow, this is so great that they offer that, because yeah, it's so important to, not only for, some people who are in pain or have issues. They aren't, like you said, they're not making the money that they could be, and they're the ones that are struggling to afford the things that would really, really benefit them and help them kind of get on a better foot. And so it's really wonderful that you're offering that. So definitely kudos to you guys, and I hope
Yeah.
it continues to have progress.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get a little bit into how you are with your patients, as well as kind of how your business is with your clients and all that. So we're going to go through some questions for that, as well as a couple fun questions at the end. Um, so what would you say the top three things, your favorite things about caring for your patients or caring for your members?
Top three favorite things. I think like seeing progress, like seeing things click for people, for my clients is, yeah, one of my favorite things. Just like
Mm-hmm.
uh because in therapy, it's not about me giving advice and telling people what to do. It's about exploring and testing things out and trying new things and thinking about things differently. And so it just takes time. Like it's a process. And so to see things like little light bulbs go off, that's really rewarding. Um, yeah, I think that along with that, I mean, I already said this, but seeing clients try new things that they would have never otherwise tried, but I just like throw a dart and I'm like, hey, have you ever thought of this? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, what if you just tried it once? And I don't even care if they like it or not. It's not about like, oh, that was life changing, but like just increasing your like cognitive flexibility and the ability
Mm-hmm.
to try new things is just it's transferable. So
Yeah.
that's really fun to see. Um, and then I think also like helping clients challenge like limiting beliefs about
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Yeah.
Just like based on how we grew up, and what happened to us, like we develop beliefs about ourselves that aren't necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
So I love seeing like the shift in that. Like my favorite question is like, well, who said so?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh,
See the
I don't know, who
cogwheels
did say that?
turning. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm giggling over here because at the moment I have a 5-month-old daughter, and we're reading lots of Dr. Seuss, and you're talking about changing people's beliefs and introducing new things, and I'm like, oh, that sounds a lot like Green Eggs and Ham, or um, so I'm just over
That's so
here like,
great.
yeah, just it's as I'm going through these books, it's like, wow, Dr. Seuss was a pretty wise dude. Like, no
He's
wonder he was a
a
doctor.
yeah. It's a philosopher.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
What would you say makes you different from others in your field?
Well, I am a fitness professional that doesn't directly promote weight loss.
Yeah, that's pretty different. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's pretty good. All right.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say that you do to go the extra distance to help your clients achieve their goals?
Um, I'm very client centered. And so, again, I might think I know what's best for someone, but I don't. Like, I'm not in their lived experience and I don't know what their life is like day to day. And so, I think what helps me help my client meet their goals is really exploring like what would be best for you. Like I've got
Mm-hmm.
some ideas, I'm happy to help guide you.
Mm-hmm.
Based on my experience, I know what might work, but what do you think would work? Like what is realistic? um, and I think where I found a lot of success is like dialing people back. So they might start movement and they haven't been very active and they're like, yeah, I can do 3 times a week. And I'm like, how about you do it once this week and just see how it goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then if their goal is 3 and they don't do it 3 times, they feel like they failed, and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
fail. They just maybe set a goal that was unrealistic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I like massage things.
Right. Right. But that's so powerful. What you said is as practitioners, we sometimes think we sometimes think that we know what people would need, but when it comes to it, it's really about listening and finding out asking the questions and figuring out what people are searching for. And when you find out what they're searching for and find out where they've been and what they've been through, it really helps answer that question. And like you said, helping guide them and not necessarily always, saying this, and this, because unfortunately human nature is not always to take orders like that. But yeah, that's really important. I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were to get like unsolicited advice from like
Right.
your mom or your best friend, it's like, don't
Right.
tell me what to do.
I know. Right. Absolutely. Without a doubt. What would you like people to know about your field that most don't know? And let's go with the mental health side.
I think that, I guess like kind of going back to this advice component, like therapy is not about me giving advice. And I think sometimes, like I work with, my first session is kind of like describing what therapy is and what it looks like. And it looks different for different people. But I think coming in, if you haven't experienced it or don't know a lot about it, it kind of feels like you as a client arrive and then the therapist fixes you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not, I wish it worked like that, but like, I can't fix you, like
Right.
I can help you sort through these challenges and your symptoms will decrease.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of hard work. Like it's a
Right.
lot of like deep diving and introspection and then reflecting after session and maybe journaling or however you process. But yeah, I think that's kind of like a misconception. And I mean, rightfully so. Like I think if you haven't experienced therapy, it is kind of confusing.
Would you characterize that as getting a little uncomfortable in order to kind of make the progress?
Mm-hmm.
To do that
Absolutely.
work and kind of to go places where you weren't necessarily enjoying going before?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And even just again that willingness to get uncomfortable, if you can get uncomfortable with your therapist who's like potentially a stranger, like think about the ways that could transfer to other areas in your life, like being more vulnerable with a partner or a
Mm-hmm.
parent or a friend, or having an uncomfortable conversation with your supervisor, or like these things transfer out, and like there's often a domino effect in putting in that work.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your characteristics then. So tell me a little bit about your strongest characteristics in life and in business. And they can be different, they can be the same, whatever you think. But what are some of the strongest characteristics that you feel like you have?
It's always been an uncomfortable, speaking of discomfort.
Yeah.
That's an uncomfortable question. Maybe I should talk to my therapist
Well,
about what's uncomfortable.
here's a different one. Let's go with, what would you say your biggest limit is in helping people?
Um, I've been doing a lot of, um, it's not recent, but I think it's become a little bit more focused and more direct in the past several weeks, given what's going on in our country. And so I've been doing more like dedicated anti-racist work and thinking about my privilege as a white cisgendered woman. And so I think like just my privilege is a limitation, like, and it's not something I can change because I was born this way. But I think in some cases, as much multicultural um, research I do and practice talking about race with a person who's a different race than me, as much of work as I do in that area, at the end of the day, sometimes like a therapist who has similar lived experiences as the client it could be a better fit. So I think, yeah, like I definitely try to understand other people's position and place in the world and how they're oppressed. But I think my privilege is a limitation for sure.
Yeah, it's very true, and very great introspectiveness on your side, and understanding that, because you're right. Yeah, when it comes to working with people, when you can directly relate is sometimes when you have the best, I guess, connection or progress. And sometimes, yeah, when you don't have that similar background or similar ability to sympathize or empathize with certain things, then it can definitely be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's great that you're aware of that and working on it even better.
Yeah. Well, and I guess off of that, like maybe I'll say like one of my strengths is like building rapport with people. I think based on, my 7 or so years in Raleigh and just the amount of people that I've met and know and have built those relationships, like I guess based on that, like I must be good at building rapport with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I don't identify as an extrovert. I identify as an introvert. But I also I love meeting people and building relationships.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Tell me a little bit about what what are 3 things that you're very passionate about besides your family, friends, and your careers?
Mm, that is a hard question because often my career kind of aligns with my passion. Uh, and my
It could be
career
like you like
aligns.
puzzles, or
Yeah.
cutting the grass. Who knows?
I don't hate cutting the grass. Let's see. So I will say traveling, something I love to do. I haven't done a lot of it recently just because I'm starting a business, and COVID.
Yeah.
But traveling, super fun. Um, I have a new, I guess, passion or hobby of gardening. So we have a small house in downtown Raleigh, and we made our front yard a garden. And so
Wow.
we ripped up all the grass and put in a garden, and that's been super fun.
What are you growing?
Well, we love peppers, so we're growing like 7 different varieties of peppers. Tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, um, beans. Oh my gosh, so many stuff. We got our first red tomato 3 days ago, which was really fun.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Congratulations. I'm
thanks.
like, I want a garden, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm terrified that I'm either not gonna have it in the right spot, or I'm gonna forget to water the plants, or I don't know. Most, I've killed an aloe plant, and I feel like that's pretty hard to do. So, um, so I don't know if a garden's the right decision for me right
Yeah. There are some things that just, yeah, not the
now.
right time.
Right, right. Awesome. So let's get into a couple fun questions, and then one last question. What would you say 3 books that you enjoy to recommend or gift to people?
Hmm. Well, I recently read Becoming by Michelle Obama, and that was incredible. Um, I also highly recommend The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. So if anyone is interested in feeling like they're struggling with body image, that's a really good one. She talks a lot about
Mhm.
radical kindness, and that,
Very
yeah,
interesting.
being kind to yourself is for some reason a radical concept.
Very foreign. Very
Yeah,
foreign.
yeah. And then, I mean, for anyone who is in the healthcare field, like health at every size is a must. It changed everything for me. It literally changed everything for me. So, Health at Every Size by Lindo Bacon.
Cool. Very nice. Thank you. All right. What would you say your favorite ice cream is?
Favorite ice cream?
Yeah.
Okay, this is super boring, but vanilla.
Yeah. That is boring.
It's so boring.
That's okay.
Vanilla with a bunch of whipped cream on top.
All right, there you go. We'll take it. All right. What would you say your spirit animal is?
Oh.
And why?
I don't even know. I don't often think about that.
First thing that comes to your head.
First thing that comes to my head. Well, this is so bad because I don't really like animals.
Uh-oh. A human.
It's not like I don't like animals. We just don't have any pets because we don't want to take care of them. Let's see. Well, I'll share that my partner is obsessed with otters, and through his obsession, I totally adore otters now.
Okay, I'll take it. All right, and then one other question that I've stolen. If you were to have a billboard on the highway and seen by thousands of people every day, what would you want it to say?
That's another hard one. Perhaps something about like take a deep breath and be.
That's great.
Yeah. I use a lot of
mindfulness. Very helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah. Just take a deep breath and just be.
Yeah, that's very nice. I like it. Well, thank you so much. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, whether questions about current wellness, questions about mental health, physical health, being part of current wellness, whether they're a practitioner, if they're a practitioner, how is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah. Multiple ways. So website, currentwellnessraleigh.com. We've got a contact form on there. That might be the easiest way. I think we show up on Google now. If you just Google current wellness, we should show up. Yeah. Working on that SEO. Or just info@currentwellnessraleigh.com. You can email us.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for having me on. This was super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful to talk to you and find out more about you and the way you think and kind of how you work with your patients. And I know anybody who would be sent to you would be in good hands. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time and joining me, and hopefully people get a lot out of this, and hopefully people may feel comfortable enough to come for a fitness class or come for wellness coaching. But yeah, I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
All right. And that's all for today. So thank you everybody for listening, and be well and thrive.